What is up, guys? My name is Miller and welcome back to my channel. In this video we are back with another episode of Pokemon Versus. In this video we're going to have two big bad dragon Pokemon go head to head to see who is the better Pokemon. Today it's going to be the big bad, the pseudo legendary Garchomp taking on Haxorus. So without further ado, let the battle begin. There will be 6 categories and the Pokemon with the most points at the end becomes the winner. Now here are all the categories on the screen. You can pause it and see it, and without further ado, let's begin. Alright, first up is BST, or base stat total. Now, starting with Garchomp. Garchomp has a base stat total of 600, which obviously makes sense because he is a pseudo legendary. Now Garchomp, of course, has amazing physical attack. He has solid defense, solid HP, and solid speed, while his special attack and special defense is a bit mediocre. So overall, his base stat is pretty good, but he's mostly intended to be, a physical attacker. Moving on to Haxorus. Haxorus has a base stat total of 540, with monstrous physical attack, solid defense, speed is also solid, while his HP, special attack, special defense are mediocre. Now, as we saw, Garchomp's base stat total is 600, so that's why Garchomp gets the first point. Next up is typing, and we're going to be going off in the offensive direction, starting with Garchomp. Now, Garchomp is a dragon and ground type, meaning Garchomp can hit 6 different types for super effective damage. You can already see them on the screen. He can hit rock, dragon, steel, electric, fire, and poison types for super effective damage, which is overall pretty solid. Moving on to Haxorus. Haxorus is a pure dragon type, which unfortunately means that Haxorus can only hit one type for super effective damage, that is the dragon type. So, which is also a double-edged sword because Haxorus is also weak to the dragon moves as well. So, as we saw, Garchomp has the ground type, which gives it more offensive capabilities, which means that Garchomp gets this point. Moving on to the defensive side of things, Garchomp has 3 weaknesses, being weak to Dragon and Fairy, and a quadruple weakness to Ice. Moving on to Haxorus. Haxorus being a Dragon type means that it also shares most of its weaknesses. However, being a pure Dragon type, meaning it does not have any 4 times weakness. Because of this, I'm giving this point to Haxorus. Finally, moving on to immunity/resistances. The Garchomp has 4 resistances. It is, of course, resist fire, rock, and poison. Besides that, it is, of course, immune to electric because of its ground typing. So overall, it has 4 resistances/immunities, which is overall pretty solid. Moving on to Haxorus. Haxorus also has 4 resistances/immunities. It is, of course, immune to the 3 elemental types. Excuse me, not immune, but resist the 3 elemental types, those being fire, water, and grass, and it, of course, resists electric. So as we saw, both Garchomp and Haxorus have 4 resistances/immunities. Because of this round is going to be a tie, so both of them get a point. The third category, their design, I'll make it quick and simple. Both of them have amazing designs, and I love both of them equally, so both of them get a point in this round. Not much to say in this round, to be honest, so let's move on to the next category. Next up is viability, which means how good are these Pokemon in their home region, starting with Garchomp. Garchomp is now, let's say that you're playing Platinum, so you can get Garchomp just after you beat the 2nd gym. As a Gible, it's not very helpful against Fantina, however, it is very good against Maylene, especially her Lucario, as Lucario is weak to ground. Besides that, he is not really good against Crash and Wake due to his team having ice moves, but he can certainly do a lot of damage to Byron, especially against this Magneton. Finally, he's also good against Faulkner's whole team, but of course be careful around Luxray because it does have Ice Fang. He's also good against Elite Four member Flint, destroying his whole team, and he's also good against two of Cynthia's Pokemon, that being Lucario and her Garchomp. But of course, Lucario does have Dragon Pulse, so be careful, and her Garchomp is also a big threat. So overall, Garchomp can certainly be a very viable Pokemon in its home region. Next up is Haxorus, and unfortunately, Haxorus is not that viable in a playthrough. Now, first of all, Haxorus is found very late. You can't get Axew until you beat the 6th gym leader, which is Skyla. Then you can, after you get Surf, you can get Axew in the Mistulaton cave. And even after you get Axew, it's gonna take some time to fully evolve it, and then you have to take on Drayden, which, though Haxorus is good against his team, they're all dragon types, and as I said before, it is a double-edged sword, as Haxorus is also good against Drayden, but also weak to it. Plus, it's not fully evolved, so it won't be as strong enough to take down most of Drayden's team, and it will probably get outspeed and killed in one shot anyway. So as we saw, Garchomp is much more viable compared to Haxorus, so Garchomp gets this point. Moving on to Move Pool, starting with Garchomp. As you can see, Garchomp gets Dragon Breath, Sand Attack, Sand Tomb, Tackle, Bulldoze, Bite, Slash, Dragon Claw, Dig, Sandstorm Takedown, and Dragon Rush, and also gets Crunch, which it gets after evolving into Garchomp, which is pretty cool. Overall, it gets solid Dragon-type moves. Of course, it doesn't really get a lot of Dragon-type moves early, but of course it does get Dragon Breath, which is pretty solid for the early game. Dragon Claw is very good. It gets it at pretty late, but still it's pretty viable. And Dragon Rush, not my favorite move, but it is still pretty good. And though it does not get Earthquake, you can still get the Earthquake TM right in Wayward Cave just after you catch Gibble. So overall, its moves pool is pretty solid. Moving on to Haxorus. Now Haxorus also gets Bite, False Swipe, Leer, Scratch, Assurance, Taunt, Slash, Dragon Claw, Scary Face, Crunch, Dragon Dance, which is big, Breaking Swipe, not my favorite, but it gets the job done, Focus Energy, Dragon Pulse, Sword Stance, and Outrage. Besides that, it does get Giga Impact, which is a very strong move with a recharging turn. But overall, Haxorus move pool is also pretty good. It does get more dragon moves, and it does get the big setup move Dragon Dance. Garchomp does get Sword Dance, but it doesn't get it by level up, which sucks. But as we saw, both their move pool are actually pretty solid, and they're very good, but I'm gonna have to give Haxorus the edge here. He just gets more moves. He gets Dragon Dance, which is big, so that's one of the reasons why Haxorus gets this point. But yeah, it was a close one though. Next up is coverage, starting with Garchomp. Garchomp gets a solid variety of coverage moves. Obviously, I'm not going to mention all of them because it would take forever, but some of the main moves he gets is Brick Break, which is pretty solid. He gets Substitute, really good. Earthquake, also really good. Draco Meteor, a big one, obviously. So overall, its coverage move is pretty solid. Moving on to Haxorus. Haxorus move pool is also very good. It has a lot of variety of moves, and unlike Garchomp, it actually gets more type variety. Garchomp doesn't get bug moves. I believe it doesn't get grass moves. Of course, with the new gimmick, it can use Terra Blast to get those, but Haxorus just has more variety. But despite that, both their move pools are pretty nice. So because of this, both of them get a point. Moving on to abilities, starting with Garchomp. Garchomp has two abilities, those being Rough Skin, which does damage upon contact, and Sandville, which basically raises the Pokemon's evasiveness during a sandstorm. Both these abilities are pretty solid, and at one point, Sandville Garchomp was actually banned. Next up is, of course, Haxorus. Haxorus actually has three abilities, one of them being Rivalry, which is not the best, Mold Breaker, which is pretty solid, and Unnerve, which is, again, not a very interesting ability. So in terms of abilities, I'm going to give Garchomp the edge here because both of Garchomp's abilities are much more helpful compared to Haxorus, whereas Haxorus only has one really good usable ability, that being Mold Breaker. Finally is Shiny, and this one is pretty simple. This point obviously goes to Haxorus. Haxorus Shiny is not only more noticeable than Garchomp, but it is miles better compared to Garchomp's very garbage Shiny. I'm sorry for making that joke, first of all. But yeah, this point obviously goes to Haxorus. You can just see on the screen, and you tell me which Shiny is better. And if you say Garchomp, you seriously need to seek psychiatrist help. But yeah, this point obviously goes to Haxorus. For the final result, as we can see, Garchomp does get the victory with only 1 point, but still, I love both Pokemon equally. Plus, you can actually see that both these Pokemon are very on par with each other, as Garchomp got the slight edge with only 1 point. But despite this, I love both these Pokemon, as I said before, and let me know in the comments below who do you like more. Now, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and till then, I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, alligators. Peace out.